What's up, y'all? Howdy, howdy. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Don't mind my little wispy hairs I got going on up there. Today's video, I'm going to do some hillbilly shit. Some backyard engineering, redneck engineering. Simply because the Barra, servicing the Barra, having to get it up and out of the engine bay is not hard, but where I have it set, and then the way I did the front end and the intercooler, you know, like I try to take up as much room as I can inside the bumper instead of everything being jam-packed inside the engine bay, I cannot use the engine hoist to pick the motor up without it beating up the bar here, or I gotta take the intercooler off. I gotta do a bunch of stuff just to get the engine hoist in there to pick up the motor. So we're gonna do some sketchy shit. I've seen people use a variety of things to get a little bit of extension on the engine hoist. And so, you know, this is just your Harbor Freight engine hoist, and I replaced the cylinder, put the 8-ton cylinder on there with the little air over oil deal. That way you ain't got to pump the living shit out of it. But I've seen a variety of things. I've seen people take the ends of jack stands, and they'll take these off. Oh, I can't get it out. But they'll take those off and then stick it in the end and just prop it in there. Maybe put a bolt under there to kind of pinch it. And they're doing that so that they have a little bit more reach. But what I'm doing is I bought some, I couldn't find any square tubing that would fit inside there, unfortunately. So I bought some angle iron. I think it's 2 inch by 2 inch, or 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. Anyhow, I'm going to cut it in half, weld that together, make it a box, and then have another sleeve to stick inside there, so that now I have an additional 2 feet of an extension to pick up the motor. Alright, so here's my little metal corner. So this is a 4-inch piece. Yeah, see, it's 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch, 1/8 inch thick angle. So that should be more than enough to support the motor, especially with, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half so that I can weld it together, and then I'll have about, so I have about a foot of extension, maybe a little more. But I'm going to have, I haven't decided how much I'm going to put down inside the existing sleeve on the engine hoist. But I would imagine at least, you know, what they say, 8 inches is always a good number, right? So we'll probably put about 8 inches or so down inside the sleeve so that, you know, there's plenty of material in there. Run a bolt through that, and then we'll have a little more than a foot. What's that? 16 inches? We'll have about 16 inches of extension on the end of the engine hoist. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing cut. Then we'll grind the edges, weld it together, make it nice and square, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Let's get this thing cut. As always, make sure you got your iPro on. Nice cut. Now you probably noticed I didn't use any lubrication on this thing. As long as you just go slow, you know, I just went nice and slow, cut through it. I didn't try to like jam the bandsaw into it. But both this, if you're wondering, this little mount, this is all Harbor Freight. This is the Bauer Harbor Freight saw. This is Harbor Freight. You know, no fancy stuff around here. Go ahead and throw this in the vise so that we can, I'm going to grind edges. I'm not going to weld the entire thing. I don't need to do that. We're just going to grind a few areas, put some good welds on it, and then Do the same thing on the other side. What am I doing? What are we doing? Hold on. All right. As always, make sure you got your eyes on. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a small bevel on it, but I'm also getting that mill scale off, so I have a good clean weld. Some people will just weld through the milled scale and just let it burn off, but I highly recommend at least take the time to remove the mill scale, before you do that. I'm going to do the same thing on this piece. Get this thing welded up. Oh man, this is not sitting right. All right, now we're good. Damn, boy. I feel like Happy Gilmore. Happy learned how to put. Now, granted, I know I'm just welding on angle iron. This is nothing. It's not like welding on stainless or anything like that, but still. I never went to school for this. 100% self-taught. Just watched a bunch of videos. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's flip this over. May be a little too hot. I might have to turn it down a little bit. Turn it down just a smidge. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to turn it down. I'm just going to work. I'm just going to move faster. That's probably my issue. I'm probably just moving too slow. I think I was just moving too slow on that first one. Granted, that's the first weld of the day, you know, so I gotta knock the rest of. Oh yeah, that's much better. Look at that. I don't know if it's gonna come into focus or not. But there's the first one. See, it's a lot shinier. It's got the color in it. This one's a little. It's got some dull gray in it. When I started off a little too slow, you know, so got a little too much heat in it. But yeah, much better. Now let's do this side. Flip it over and do this corner. Alright. So now I'm just going to finish up the welds. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 12 more stitches to put in total. And then we can drill a hole in this thing. Alright, well, I had some issues with my helmet. For some reason, the daggum auto darkening feature wasn't working. It's got fresh batteries in it. I don't know. Putting new batteries in it, so we'll see if we can continue welding, because that was driving me nuts. Alright, well, the angle iron's all welded up. We got us some nice little square tube going on. So I'm just going to let that set a bit, let it cool off before we do anything else to it, because it's rather hot right now. So I'll let that sit, and then, well, I'm going to get the drill press set up so I can drill some holes in this thing. One, to mate up to the actual engine hoist, and then two, so we can suspend the chain from it. Big man, big man, big man, what do you want, man? Look, he is so needy. So needy. Yeah, you. Needy dog. So now we're gonna, this is the part of the lift, the original square tubing on the lift. So we're gonna start our hole here for a new pin. So we're gonna drill this out, and then while that is still cooling, so we're gonna just drill this bad boy out right quick. To the other side. Now I'm going to swap these out and put a step-up bit on this just to make that a little bit bigger for the locking pin. Alright, we got our step-up bit on there. Everything's nice and snug. So we're going to open this hole up just a little bit. See if that fits. Alright, so here's the pin we're using. It's from one of the old ones off my tractor. But that fits. So we're just going to flip this over and widen up the hole on the other side. Why did I do that? Why did I? I don't know why I did that. that one's done. Now we just got to do the other one. Alright, well, this is now cool enough to work my hand. So you can see I got plenty of stitch welds, a little over 1.5 to 2 inches. So this should be, those welds should be more than enough to provide strength for what we're fixing to do. So we're going to go ahead and pop this in here, and then we're going to drill a hole in this to line up with the other one so that it'll go through the big pipe, through this one, and then I got a locking pin over there. And then the other things we got to do is got a couple of oval in here for the chain that's going to be suspended where you would connect to the engine. So we'll get this set up in the drill press. Get it going, boys. Get it going. So we're going to go this way because I want the pipe to be slightly, it's not like a perfect square. It's more like, it's almost like a rectangle the way that I welded it. So I want the tall side to go in the tube, so this will be up. We'll just roughly put this in here. Right, let's get this set up. Alright, well, it fits. We just got to clean off with the brake clean. And then the last part we got to do is this guy here for the chain. But another step closer, so let's keep on drilling. Alright, so we got all of our holes drilled. And then this is the end piece where the chain's got to drop into it. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. So set that there. Chain link drops in like so, and then this, hold on, trying to do this one-handed here. There we go. Put a bolt on that side, and we are good to go. Let's go ahead and assemble this whole thing. Alright, it's assembled. Look at that hillbilly ship, boys and girls. I think it's going to work. See, use old pin from the tractor. So all I did was just drill a hole in the existing one. This is what originally holds the chain right here. Just move the chain here. No need to like tighten this up super tight. Just hand tight. And then when I don't need to use the extension, just move it back. So we're going to give it a little test run because on the barrow swap, I've got about 1/8 of an inch in the motor mounts to play with, some room. So I'm going to basically lift the motor up, loosen the motor mounts, move them back the 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more, because I want to get some more clearance down the bottom from the rear sump to the K-member. So we're going to attach all this, and hopefully that should support the weight. I don't see why it won't. I really don't. So, oh, look at that. See, I ain't even got to take the intercooler off. Look at that. Right where I wanted it. And we still got extra room. Now let's just hope that it works. What do you say, Kentaro? Hey man, is it gonna work? You don't care. Alright, I got the motor mounts, the main bolts off the motor mounts. So now we're gonna see if my little hillbilly contraption will work, which I don't see where I really don't see why it won't. Sketchy, yes. But I have full confidence that it'll work. Now, whether you choose to do this at home is totally up to you, and I am not liable if you turn around and hurt yourself in the process or drop your motor or whatever you're picking up. So let's go ahead and get this thing jacked up so I can move these motor mounts. See, here it is. So I've got the bolts off down yonder. We're going to crank this bad boy up. I already took the front radiator out because, you know, when it comes up, I need to move it forward because there's a sensor in the back that I no longer need. I'm going to remove that. It's just a sensor in the head, but it doesn't go into a coolant passage. It just dead ends it up against the material. So I just read that a lot of people, they don't even use it. They just either put a plug in it, which it doesn't need one, or they just leave it. But I'm going to take it off because it sticks off the back of the head like that far. All right, here we go. I'm not going to bother hooking up the air because I don't need to lift it up real high. Well, it's picking up the car. That's a good sign. Here she comes. Look at that. And it's totally 100% suspended by the chain right now. It's not resting on anything. And you know, like nothing's bending. I think we're okay, guys. Let's look at the other side. Yeah, we're good. Jeez. Alright, so I was able to, it's kind of hard to film this when it's all by myself, but I was able to jack the engine back up just enough that I didn't even have to touch the motor mounts themselves and move them whatsoever. So on the Barra, this is a considerably long motor to begin with. On the back side of the head, right in there, it's kind of hard, is a temp sensor that it's not actually tapped in. It's like a dead end in there that actually doesn't sit in the coolant. And a lot of people just block that off. And so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up just breaking off the electrical part of the sensor, took a grinder, and then ground the brass flush. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to reposition. I'm not going to use that source, that location for the temperature source anyway. I'm running a Haltech, so I can just put it wherever I want, where I think it's best. And I'm not saying I know better than Ford engineers, but that damn sensor, like I said, was that long, and it was in the way, and I really want to cut my firewall. So, with that being said, just getting that out of there. Now, granted, that sucker, back of the head is like right. I mean, you're probably talking about like hairs from the firewall where those two little deals are from the casting. But good news is I was able to move the motor back one hole from here to here. And as you can see, look how much clearance that gave me between the oil sump, steering rack, and the K-member. Like, we went from just a sliver of daylight to looks about like 2 to 3 inches, maybe about 2 inches of clearance now. So I was really worried about that, you know, driving around with just a smidgen of clearance. I didn't feel comfortable with that, so I knew that I was going to have to massage the K-member, mess with the motor mounts, do something. I just needed to get a little bit more clearance. So we did, with the help of our little hillbilly extension for the engine hoist, which works freaking great. So all in all, that little, I think that piece of steel cost me $24 at Lowe's, but that just made it, my whole idea, everything just come to life, because I was really, man, like I said, I didn't want to mess up the firewall. I really don't want to get into that. And that you got to remember, if you've watched any of the previous videos, I specifically say that this car is not going to be just dedicated drag only. Like, I do, and what I mean is like the way I set the motor up, you know, where I wanted it to sit, I wanted it low in the car, I wanted it low, and then I wanted it back as far as I can get without cutting into the firewall. And which helps tremendously, obviously, for balance. And it may bite me in the ass at the drag strip, which, you know, because you can see, I don't have a hole. So right now we just got the intercooler out there where the turbo's sitting. I mean, the turbo is roughly 10 inches from the center line of the front spindle. You know, so like, you know, and these turbos ain't that heavy anyway. But if you just kind of just eyeballing it, center line of the spindle, and you look at the motor, you know, you're looking at like, it looks like the good portion of the weight of the engine is actually behind the K-member, or the spindle, I should say. So we'll see when I scale it out. But at the end of the day, I want a good all-around car, so I want to be able to have a little bit of balance in it as well. So when we're, you know, when I finally get it to a point where I'm going to take it up a hill and do some hill climbs, I have more of a 50-50 balance, you know, and it's a much more what'd you say, well-mannered car, I guess, you know, going up there. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I'm figuring it out as I go, guys. But yes, anyhow, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. You like this kind of content, please remember to like, subscribe, help us out. I think we're just under 1,000 subscribers, which, hey, that's awesome. Maybe one day we'll get to 100,000 and keep right on going, but please like, subscribe, help me grow this channel. If once you see this beast out there, it ain't going to be red. Trust me, it ain't going to be red. If you see me out of the trail, please come say hello, say what's up. I'd love to shoot the shit with you. Take care, guys. Peace. Peace.